want to ask you something, and I want you to answer it honestly, not to me, just to yourself. How many trading books are on your shelf right now? How many courses have you started? How many podcasts have you listened to where you thought, oh, this is it. This is the one that's finally going to change things? I'll go first. I have read more trading books than most people have read books. I have listened to hundreds, and I mean hundreds of hours of trading psychology content. I have journaled the setups. I have drawn the lines. I've written the rules so many times I could recite them in my sleep. And I still lost. Not because I didn't know what to do, because knowing what to do and doing what you know are two completely different things. And the gap between them, the gap everyone has been calling a discipline problem for 13 years, well, it has a different name. And the second I tell you what it is, something in you is going to feel the floor drop out from under an old story you've been carrying. Just stay with me. Let me paint you a picture. You finish a trading session. It didn't go the way you planned again. And you sit there afterwards and you do the thing. You open the journal. You write it all out. I knew I shouldn't have held that position. I knew the setup wasn't there. I knew exactly what was happening. And I did the opposite of what I know anyway. Blah, 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 blah. And then, and this is the part I want you to sit with. You write the conclusion. I need more discipline. How many times have you written that sentence? How many Monday mornings have started with some version of it? How many Sunday nights have ended with it? How many journal entries? How many new systems? How many this time it's going to be different moments have been built on that sentence? I'm not asking to shame you. I'm asking because I wrote it so many times the pages wore thin. And here's what I finally had to face. That sentence, I need more discipline, produced exactly nothing. Not because the discipline doesn't matter, but because I was using it in the way you use a bandage on a wound that needs surgery. It felt like I was doing something. It felt responsible. It felt like the right answer. It was the wrong answer. And the reason it was the wrong answer is a thing nobody in the trading education world ever told me. Knowing what to do and following through on what you know are not the same skill. They don't even live in the same part of the brain. The first one, knowing. Your brain does brilliantly, absorbs information, finds patterns, builds systems, identifies exactly what needs to happen, loves it. Could do it all day. The second one, execution. The follow through, the boring repetition of the proven thing. Well, that's a completely different nervous system. And for some of us, that nervous system wasn't built the way trading textbooks assume. Which brings me to something I want to show you. Because when I finally understood this, it didn't feel like an excuse. It felt like someone had handed me an instruction manual to my own brain. And I've been trying to drive the car without one for 13 years. So I want to tell you about a type of brain. The one that is genuinely structurally wired for novelty, for the new thing, for the interesting thing, for the thing that fires the imagination and the curiosity and that particular kind of alive that comes with discovery. That brain is creative. It's fast. It makes connections other brains miss. It can hyper-focus with an intensity that borders on supernatural when the thing in front of it is genuinely interesting. And it is absolutely, completely, almost comically unsuited to running the same boring, proven edge over and over without flinching. Which is, of course, the entire job description of a short-term day trader. I say that with love and with a particular kind of exhausted humor that comes from recognizing yourself in something you've been fighting for years. Here's what the brain does at the trading desk that we've been calling a discipline problem. It abandons the strategy exactly when the strategy starts working, not despite the fact that it's working, because it is. Because working means it got quiet. And quiet to this brain feels like dying. It reads every book, understands every concept, can explain the psychology of the trade to someone else better than it can execute the trade itself. Because understanding is interesting. Execution is repetitive. And repetitive is a thing this brain was not built for. It writes the rule and breaks it, not randomly, not from carelessness, but from the precise, predictable moment when following the rule requires the brain to do the thing it is physiologically least equipped to do. Stay. Now, I need to say something carefully, and I mean every word of it. I am not telling you that you have ADHD. I am not a psychiatrist. Blowing up an account doesn't mean anything clinical, and anyone who tells you it does isn't being straight with you. What I am saying is this, and I want you to feel how different it is from what you've been telling yourself. You may be living with a brain that was never explained to you. And that brain, the one that knows everything and executes nothing, that reads the books and breaks the rules, that understands the problem more clearly than anyone and solves it less reliably than anyone, that brain is not broken. It was just never given the right instructions. The psychiatrist in that podcast I watched said something I haven't been able to put down. He said, "You've been blaming your character for what is actually your wiring." Character, the thing you were born with, the thing that makes you who you are, the thing that, if it's the problem, means you are the problem, versus wiring, the way your brain was built, the patterns it runs, something that can be understood, worked with, built around. The difference between those two words is the difference between shame and compassion. And you cannot execute well from shame. I know, because I tried for 13 years. Let me tell you what that bookshelf actually cost me. Not financially, though there's that too. I mean, what it cost me internally. Every book I finished and didn't execute was filed somewhere in my nervous system as evidence. Evidence that I was a problem. Evidence that I was uniquely, specifically, unfixably broken in some way that all the information in the world couldn't reach. There's a word for that accumulation. The doctors call it shame. And shame, I want you to understand this because it changes everything. Shame is not an emotion. It's a state, a full body, nervous system state that makes the gap between knowing and doing wider, not narrower. Because you cannot follow through on what you know when your body is braced with the belief that you're fundamentally not capable of it. Let me repeat that. You cannot follow through on what you know when the body is braced with the belief that you're fundamentally not capable of it. The shame produces the very failure it's supposedly responding to. And here's what I did with the shame, like a lot of us do. I read another book, which gave me more things to know and not to do, which produced more evidence, which produced more shame, which sent me back to the bookshelf, round and round for years. Until the morning I watched that podcast and threw all the books out. No. Until the morning I watched that podcast and a psychiatrist explained that I had been trying to fix a brain problem with an information problem. And information doesn't fix brain problems. What fixes it, what actually begins to close the gap between knowing and doing, is something that sounds almost embarrassingly simple. You stop fighting the brain you have, and you start building a life that works with it, not around the discipline problem, not on top of the shame, not after you finally become the version of yourself who is reliable enough to deserve a working edge. Right now, with this brain, as you actually are. Self-compassion isn't the reward you get after you've fixed yourself. It's the doorway you walk through first. And on the other side of that door is something I want to call the embodied. Not the trader who finally became disciplined, the trader who finally stopped asking their brain to be something it isn't and started asking it to do what it actually does well, which, when you give it the right conditions, is extraordinary. So what does this actually look like? If it's not more books, more rules, more this time, I'll be different, well, what is it? It starts with a question. One question, and it's not the question you've been asking. You've been asking, what's wrong with me? The new question is, what happened to me? And what does my brain need in order to do this? Because those are buildable answers. You can actually work with those. A brain wired for novelty needs the edge to stay interesting. So you find the novelty inside the depth. The same setup that plays out differently every single time. The craft of execution, which is actually endlessly complex once you stop trying to make it simple. A brain that can't sustain repetition needs external structure. So you build it. A pre-market checklist that becomes a ritual. A post-session review that becomes a practice. Not rules imposed from the outside, structures you designed for a brain you understand. A nervous system that learned to brace needs regulation before it can execute, so you regulate first. Feet on the floor, breathe. The one sentence that tells your body, today is not a war. None of this is discipline. All of it is self-knowledge applied. And for those of us that carry a spiritual practice, I want to say something here that I believe deeply. The 11th step, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact. Conscious contact with what? with the self you've been trying to override with willpower, with the brain you've been treating as an enemy, with the younger version of you who absorbed everything, not meeting potential. That comment over and over and decided they took it in somewhere deep and wordless. Somehow, from all that, they decided they were the problem. Meeting that one, honestly, with compassion, that's the 11th step for me at the trading desk. And it is the beginning of actually doing what you know. Now, I'm also a Reiki master, and Reiki works with moving energy around and healing myself and or others with that energy. Well, it knows no bounds. It doesn't know time, doesn't know space. So you can heal the past, the present, and even the future self. There is a healing symbol in Reiki called Seiheki for mental and emotional healing. You can use this by putting a hand over your heart and saying it, Seiheki, calling it in, just asking for its healing energy before you trade, after you trade, before you review your trades, not to feel better about any of them, to stay present with them, to look at what happened without the shame flooding in and shutting down the learning. Seiheki. Clarity without punishment. That's the practice. I want to leave you with something else before I go. The gap between knowing and doing, the one you've been calling a discipline problem, the one that's cost you more than the losses ever did, that gap was never a character flaw. It was information about how your brain works and information we can work with. If you're sitting with this thinking, oh, this is a lot, and I don't want to do this alone, I want you to know you don't have to. OTA, Overtraders Anonymous, is the room where we talk about exactly this. The knowing without doing, the rules we write and break, the versions of ourselves we're still trying to become. Every Sunday and Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time online. In that room, we do something that doesn't happen in any trading course I've ever seen. We build the second nervous system, the one that actually follows through together. Because it turns out that what the executing brain needs more than information is connection, co-regulation, the experience of not being alone in the gap. The link is below. It's free. You're welcome in that room exactly as you are, books and all. Okay. Next week, I want to talk about something that might be the most vulnerable question in the series. Because there's a kind of trader who isn't chasing profit at all. They're chasing something else entirely. Something their nervous system has been reaching for long before they ever opened a platform. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. I'll see you there. I'm Devin Mills, certified trauma-informed life coach for traders and founders of Overtraders Anonymous. It was never discipline. It was a brain that needed understanding, not punishment. And you have always been enough.